Leo Lowenthal, 1900 to 1993. Quote, the academic disciplines which have been traditionally charged with the history and analysis of literature have been caught unaware by the impact of mass literature, the bestseller, the popular magazine, the comics, and the like, and they have maintained an attitude of haughty indifference to the lower depths of imagination in print. A field and a challenge thus have been left open, and the sociologists will have to do something about them. End quote. That's from the Sociology of Literature, 1948. His biography. Lowenthal was born in Frankfurt in 1900, the son of assimilated Jews. His father was a physician, and he came of age during the turbulent years of the Weimar Republic. He joined the newly founded institute in 1926 and quickly became its leading expert on the sociology of literature and mass culture, as well as the managing editor of the journal it launched in 1932. The Zeitschrift für Sozialforschung, heterodox and independent Marxists, open to new intellectual currents such as psychoanalysis and predominantly Jewish. The Institute's members swiftly fled Germany when Hitler came to power in 1933. After a year in Geneva, they settled in New York, where Columbia University gave them shelter. Lowenthal maintained a close relationship with his colleagues, even during the war when several of them moved to California, and he began to work with the Office of War Information in Washington. Although Horkheimer, Adorno, and Friedrich Pollock returned to Frankfurt to reestablish the Institute after the war, Lowenthal, like former members Herbert Marcuse, Franz Neumann, Otto Kirchheimer, and Erich Fromm, chose to remain in the United States. After 7 years as research director of the Voice of America and another 7 years at the Stanford Center for the Advanced Study of the Behavioral Sciences, he joined the Berkeley Speech Department in 1956 and shortly thereafter the Department of Sociology. Although officially retiring in 1968, Lowenthal remained vigorously active in departmental and university affairs until virtually the end of his life. From 1968 to 1972, he served on the Budget Committee, and in 1973 to 74, chaired the Sociology Department. The celebrated private seminar he conducted with graduate students interested in the sociology of literature was launched during the student strike of 1970 and continued to meet through the last months of 1992. As two of its participants, Jim Stockinger and Terry Strathman, remember it, the seminar produced a remarkable cross-generational dialogue whose focus on literature was particularly liberating for sociologists unaccustomed to literary analysis. Good wine, cheese, hearty and spirited debate, and a large dose of German conviviality, they recalled, made these evenings unforgettable experiences. Lowenthal's publications were collected during the 1980s both in German by the Suhrkamp Verlag and in English by Transaction Press. Most notable among them were Prophets of Deceit, written with Norbert Gutermann in 1949, Literature in the Image of Man in 1957, and Literature, Popular Culture, and Society in 1961. Also included were his early writings on Jewish themes and his last ruminations of postmodernism, against whose dangers he warned. His autobiographical reflections, including fascinating conversations with the German sociologist Helmut Dubio, were published by the University of California as an unmastered past in 1987. The extensive interviews he gave in 1989 to another German interlocutor, Friedrich Hager, dealt with postmodernism and the contemporary themes. They stimulated a collection of responses by European and American scholars published in honor of his 19th birthday as Geschichte Denken, a Notizbuch für Leo Lowenthal by the Reklam Verlag of Leipzig. For his 80th, he had been the recipient of the Festschrift of celebratory essays in the journal Telos. In the last decade of his life, Lowenthal was richly honored on both sides of the Atlantic, awarded the Berkeley Citation and the Federal Republic of Germany's Distinguished Merit Cross in 1985. He also received honorary doctorates from the University of Siegen, the Free University of Berlin, and the University of Hamburg. Further, he was given the city of Frankfurt's Goethe Medal and Adorno Prize, as well as a year at the Berlin Institute for Advanced Study, In 1985, the first full-length appreciation of his work was published by Michael Kausch as Erzählung und Unterhaltung, Leo Lowenthal's Theater der Messing Kommunikation. As the final survivor of the Frankfurt School Inner Circle, he achieved international recognition as a symbol of its remarkable collective achievement. Lowenthal's training in collaborative scholarship and his broad humanistic learnings allowed him to play a leading role both in the institutional and intellectual life of the campus as a whole. An early supporter of the free speech movement, but troubled by the excesses that followed, he was a leading member of the faculty committee chaired by Charles Muscatine that produced the widely admired report published as Education at Berkeley. Lowenthal displayed an extraordinary ability to maintain close friendships with scholars in disparate fields and begin new ones with members of very different generations. He remained a vital presence long after his active teaching days were over. His quick, often acerbic wit, uncanny shrewdness in judging, and gleeful gossiping about people, and manifest zest for life fully never deserted him, nor did his intransigent refusal to abandon the long-cherished ideals of his youth, even as he soberly acknowledged the improbability of their ever being realized. Ruthlessly unsentimental and impatient with cant of any kind, he nonetheless refused to succumb to the sour cynicism of those who turn into deadly adults Horkheimer and Adorno warned against.